Namaste and Jai Swaminarayan. Welcome to this week's episode of Timeless Hindu Wisdom. This is a special web series delivered by the Swamis of BAPS Swaminarayan Sanstha. It has been initiated to inspire us during these challenging times with the universal wisdom of ancient Hindu scriptures, presented in a contemporary, bite-sized format. Originally from Toronto, Snehmunidas Swami undertook a degree in pharmacy in Detroit before being ordained as a sadhu by Pramukh Swami Maharaj in 1997. He spent the next 10 years studying Sanskrit and Hindu scriptures in India. Snehmunidas Swami currently serves at the BAPS Swaminarayan Mandir in Chicago. He regularly delivers engaging talks on Hindu values and teachings in conventions and seminars across North America. He's also the author of a book titled Truth from Under a Tree, which explains the spiritual teachings of Bhagwan Swaminarayan in an engaging and contemporary manner for youth and children. So, without further ado, I now hand it over to Snehmunidas Swami.
Why should I forgive? That's the question that we often ask. Well, first and foremost, forgiveness doesn't mean that you're condoning that what a person did is okay. But forgiveness is for you, not the other person. And forgiveness is about your own feelings and not about the person who hurt you. Forgiveness is focusing on your own thoughts and feelings and not the event that has occurred. And forgiveness is reclaiming control over your own feelings by taking responsibility for how you feel. Forgiveness is seeing yourself as someone who overcame a challenge, victorious, instead of seeing yourself as a victim. And forgiveness is a skill that you can learn and a habit that you can form, just like throwing a frisbee or a basketball. Lastly, every person can learn to forgive. A great modern-day story of forgiveness is the one of Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years simply for protesting the apartheid. One would expect that anyone in a similar situation would hold a tiny grudge after it was all over, but instead, he said, "As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison." He also said, forgiveness liberates the soul. It removes fear. That's why it's such a powerful weapon. Nishkuranand Swami, a Swami of Bhagwan Swaminarayan from 200 years ago, also suffered being wrongly beaten and harassed. He's written in Gujarati, Kshama sama kada ganihi, jarana sama nahi jap, dhiraj sama dhala nahi, ane mauna sama nahi shap. In other words, there's no weapon as powerful as forgiveness, and no mantra as powerful as tolerance. And then he says, there's no shield as powerful as patience, and no retaliation as powerful as silence. Nelson Mandela and Nishkuranand Swami both could have cried about what they went through, but they both chose the high road and chose to tell their own story in a positive light from a perspective of learning. So when we examine our own storytelling, that's what we need to do. Now, I'm not talking about telling a bedtime story to your kids. You should do that, by the way. But what I'm talking about is we need to take notice of how we tell our own stories. And that helps us measure our forgiveness level. How do I narrate the things that have happened to me? Sure, when something bad happens, it might be okay to initially be in shock, denial, and even angry, but for how long do we stay in that mindset? And can we take one step forward after the event? Are you telling your story from a perspective that led you to hatred? Or was it a humbling experience? Do you tell your story and portray the event that led to grieving Or did you discover gratitude amidst the grief? Do you narrate the challenge that you faced as if you're a victim or a person who remained valiant and is claiming victory? Does your story carry a tone of complaint, or does it carry a tone of courage? Years ago, a devotee sent me a story from a Reader Digest article, a true story about a lady who benefited from learning to forgive. Now, this lady would ride her bike to work every morning. She knew the traffic rules and followed them to a T. She signals properly and would never be in a rush. But one day, when she was biking to work, a driver in a hurry tried to pass her. He knocks her flying and speeds away. He doesn't stop. Now, she's taken to the hospital. She's bedridden for a couple of weeks because she has a concussion and a crushed hip bone. Months later, she recovers, but not completely. So she now suffers from chronic headaches and also needs a cane to walk. The police couldn't find the driver who hit her, and she couldn't go back to work anymore. And her husband had to change jobs to adjust his schedule to help her out, as well as increase the income for the family. He was earning for two now. So the good thing is that she survived the trauma. And she says, I learned to be more compassionate to the pains of others from what I went through. And I was able to make positive changes to my own lifestyle. Instead of complaining, now I'm more grateful that I have such caring and loving family members who helped me through all of this. And she says, my father gave me a little bit of advice that you can't change the past, and you're the only one who can make your future. And then lastly, towards the end of the article, she says, I still don't like the pain, obviously, but I feel I'm a better person for what I've gone through. Now, this is very difficult to also apply to our life. Although she was hurt physically, she was able to become stronger psychologically. It's easy for me to narrate an incident like this, but it's difficult to apply when something like this actually happens to us. In his book titled Forgive for Good, Dr. Fred Luskin gives a nice example. He says, imagine yourself as a police officer assigned to give out speeding tickets. You're standing on the side of the road, holding your ticket book, and your radar shows you everyone's speed. Suddenly, a car zips by, definitely over the speed limit. So you open your ticket book and write up a ticket, but the car is long gone. And you're left holding the ticket yourself. And then suddenly another car races by. You write them a ticket also. But once again, you're the one holding the ticket. Hours go by, and by sunset, you notice you've written many tickets that still need to be handed out. But you are the one holding all of them. You can see how this can seem frustrating. That's why, or this is what it's like when we make up rules in our head and then expect others to follow them. We each have such mental rules for how we think others should talk and walk, dress and dine, and even play and pray. Dr. Luskin calls them unenforceable rules. We think our rules are the correct ones, but no matter how good the rule, there's always a person around to break it. Neither the law, you or me, authority, no one can stop them. And when we see someone breaking our personal rules, we take it personally. We feel it's a personal attack, which results in us feeling hurt or even angry sometimes. So just like that officer writing tickets to speed demons, the more mental tickets we write out to other people, the more helpless and more hurt we'll feel. So we need to calmly consider that other people act according to different rules. Otherwise, the rules we create in our head end up ruling over our feelings. So only after we toss those mental tickets that we've written away do we free ourselves from their control over our feelings. Now, how can we build up the bravery to toss away the mental tickets that we've written for other people that have broken our unenforceable rules? Once we discover that we've created a rule, separate the desire from the demand. Separate the desire and the demand. It's okay to only desire or wish for something, but we need to get rid of the demand for something. We have to mentally move away from demanding and gravitate towards simply wishing for something, desiring something, and let go of controlling the outcome. Let go of insisting that our demands are all met. In other words, your wishes and hopes are transformed into goals, but you can also handle it when they are not all fulfilled. Then you'll notice that when you only loosely hope, wish, or desire for things, you can think more clearly and feel more peaceful. A few examples of unenforceable rules that we create on a day-to-day basis are: nobody should lie to me. Really? Is that even possible? Another rule that we create is my spouse or son or daughter has to do this in this way. Now, we should think, do we ourselves do according to their every demand? Another rule we create is life should be fair. Instead, we should learn to deal with life in life's terms. Another rule we create is people have to treat me with kindness and care for me the way I want. Well, good luck with that one. My life has to be easy. Instead, we should be thinking, I would love an easy life, but until I get one, I will appreciate the one that I have. Another rule we create is my past should have been different from the way it was. This is a popular one, but the easiest way to challenge this is remind yourself it's done and I can't change it. Wanting a perfectly behaved child is a valid desire, but it's a recipe for disaster. Wanting a perfect parent is a nice desire, but that's the road to misery. No one will always behave the way we like, so our rules will be broken. But the mistake we make is we challenge the person, but instead we should be challenging our own rule. We need to challenge our own unenforceable rules, and this will eventually lead to peace. The Ramayana is a text which describes the history of events that took place in the land that is currently known as India and Sri Lanka. It's one of the two main original history books of India, and the other one is the Mahabharata. The authors of the Ramayana are Valmiki ji and Tulsidas, and regarding forgiveness, they narrate mistakes made by individuals that lead to events that offer profound insight. King Dashrath is the king of Ayodhya, and one of his three queens, Kaikeyi, out of selfish motives, asks King Dashrath for the two wishes he had promised her as a favor from years back. She demands Dashrath give the throne to her son Bharat instead of Ram. And as a second wish, she says, exile Ram into the jungle for 14 years. So to nobly uphold the promise given by his father, Ram Bhagwan enters into the jungle. For 14 years, Ram never demanded that life be easy. And even upon arrival back into Ayodhya, Ram is not bitter at all. Tulsidas writes, Ram first goes to the quarters of Kaikeyi to meet her, since he knows that she feels very ashamed for having sent him into the jungle. She feels bad for what she did. She realizes her mistake. And Tulsidas writes, Prabhu jani Kaikeyi lajani prathama tasu gruha gaye bhavani tahi prabodhi bahu sukha dinha puni nija bhavan gagana hari kinha. In other words, Ram Bhagwan is able to accept that Kaikeyi did not abide by his unenforceable rules of treating all sons of Dashrath equally. And actually, Ram sees that she acted out of her love for Bharat. And to her surprise, Ram tells her, Gnatam sarvam tava charanayor mataresha prasada. Translated, he says, going into the jungle by your blessings made me a stronger person, and I was able to learn so much about myself and all of my relations. Kaikeyi breaks the unenforceable rule of treating all four sons equally. By accepting her behavior, Ram succeeds in maintaining harmony within the entire family. Similarly, Bhagwan Swami Maharaj, the leader and guru of BAPS, in blessing a couple's marriage in 2017, he said,
તમને શું શોધીએ છે? પુરુષ હોય એ બેસ્ટ વાઇફ શોધે છે અને સ્ત્રી હોય એ બેસ્ટ હસબન્ડ શોધે, પણ એવું ના જોઈએ. I will be best husband and I will be best wife. એ રીતે તો અખંડ સામે ઈચ્છા રાખે, પણ તમે કેવા છો એ ગણતા નહીં. તમારે સારે I will be best husband અને સામે I will be best wife. એ રીતે નભે, ઠેઠ સુધી નભે.
You should not expect your wife to act like Sita, but instead you yourself should become Ram. And vice versa, you shouldn't expect your husband to act like Ram, but you yourself should become Sita. You shouldn't expect others to keep unity, he says, but you should tell yourself, I want to maintain unity. And this is the secret to harmony in any relationship, and harmony within your own life as well. So, Bhagwan Swami Maharaj and Ram Bhagwan both teach us forgiveness is a choice you as an individual must make. If you want to live life peacefully, let go of your unenforceable rules. Forgive and don't hold a grudge, because holding a grudge can be more hazardous to your own health than it is to the other person. Many studies have proven that forgiveness has a positive effect not only on your relations, but also on your own health. So in the end, we need to learn to happily accept when people break our unenforceable rules. Avoid the hazardous habit of holding a grudge, and practicing these baby steps of forgiveness will lead to harmony. Harmony in our home and harmony in our own heart. Because forgiving for good is for your own good.